Can you think of any weird misheard lyrics off the top of your head? Like you know what I mean by misheard lyrics?
Like Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father.
No, I mean like music.
Oh, I know, but like that in that like.
Yeah,
very...
sure, but I'm like so. I realized this. My most recently relearned or learned misheard lyric that I've always had is Blue Oyster Cult. Don't fear the Reaper. I always thought it was Jesus, don't fear the Reaper, and it's Seasons, don't fear the Reaper. Like Seasons, don't fear the Reaper.
I just remembered the intro too. I couldn't remember how the song went.
Da, da, da. Yeah, no. So it's Seasons don't fear the Reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain. You know, and like actually thinking about that seasons, and then it's like wind, sun, or rain. Like that all makes sense. Where the fuck? Like I'm thinking Jesus, don't fear the Reaper. Like what the fuck does that even mean? Like
psychedelic rock,
Jesus,
man.
don't fear the Reaper.
I can't think of.
Nor does the wind, nor the sun, or the rain. You can't. Really?
It's one of those you put me on the spot. Now I can't think of any songs.
No, I mean that's fair. Well, it's like fucking like all of like most of like Pearl Jam's like first album. Just like Eddie Vedder's like.
For some reason, when you brought up Pearl Jam, all I thought was Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec.
What?
What's his name?
Chris Pratt?
Yeah, Chris Pratt. Like, did you watch Parks and Rec a lot?
Yeah, I mean not a lot. I mean I've seen like the first couple of seasons. That's pretty much it.
He's just like. He's making songs.
Yeah.
He's singing about cheese, you know. Like and he thinks he's like killing it, you know. Or like when he gets drunk. Turn on the music. Turn on the music.
That's totally a Chris Pratt thing, making fun of like early grunge.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's pretty much like oh, rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. By the way, that's actually really sad. But like a lot of like just like the whole like the like even like Kurt Cobain just like fucking come as you. I mean he's actually singing, but it sounds like he's just like you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it was just that era.
It was. I mean, but that was the whole idea of of grunge, though, was that it was to make music. You know, like it's not supposed. Music doesn't have to be pretty. You know. I mean, it's like it's a response to the glam metal and kind of like an extension of what punk was kind of trying to do as well.
Well,
but
it's even
differently.
But even that era too, that like even like shit like bands like Hinder. You calling me slowly.
But that was kind of like the post grunge where like grunge became so popular that people are now just like were using it in their music.
Yeah. Hey, we should focus. This is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is Tommy and Jacob's mixtape. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Oh, damn it. I wanted to fucking memorize their goddamn sugar pop.
Oh, yeah. Wait. I used to know it by heart. Welcome to our part 3 discussion of Elden Ring. Kidding. We already did that off mic.
Yeah, we had to get it out of the system, so we didn't bring it up.
We didn't bring it up. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa butt, shimmy, shimmy, right. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa butt, shimmy, shimmy, right.
My girlfriend, she is biscuit.
Triscuit. No, she...
My girlfriend, she is a biscuit. A triscuit. Are you going to look it up?
Yeah. Down. Oh, it's an ice cream song. Down, baby.
That's right. Is it an actual song? Or because it feels like it's something that's like best friends made up lyrics to, you know?
Down, baby. Let's see.
Well, I think it's like down, baby. It also like the beginning of the down, baby makes me think of or down just makes me think of Nelly.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Tom Hanks recreates big rap.
All right, we're taking too long.
Yeah, okay.
we're doing big. We're talking about big today. We're going back to 80s.
I found
retro stuff, keyboards, guitar, keyboard ties. Was that a thing then? I don't know. I was 2 when this came out. You weren't even alive yet. You may not even been a thought. You're maybe a thought. Yeah, I don't know. You're possibly a thought. I'm spiraling.
Yeah.
Can you save me, please?
If you were closer, I'd smack you. Focus. I did find it, by the way, so we could learn it later.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing. I actually missed. I can't wait to listen to that. I missed your entire spiral.
Jesus Christ, that's hilarious.
So big. Released 1988.
Yeah, I haven't seen it talk about anything.
Released June. We haven't done a review in a while, y'all.
Oh yeah. So
Released June 3rd, 1988.
Yes. Actually, hold on a quick second. I sound a little quiet. Do I not?
No,
I'm
you're never quiet.
All right. Anywho, so yeah, it came out June 3rd, 1988. It had a 7.3 rating on IMDb, 73% on Metacritic, matching. Imagine that. Rotten Tomato was interesting. I went on to Rotten Tomato and the reviews were gone and there was no actual thing. But on Google, it said a 97% Rotten Tomato rating.
Weird.
Yeah, I thought that was very strange. So I don't know. Rotten Tomato. What's going on?
What's going on?
It was number 4 in box office. I mean, this is back in the 80s where worldwide and domestic are kind of the same thing.
Well, yeah, and it's also like one of those rare occasions where it's actually in the top 5.
Oh, yeah,
we
it's
only
true.
had a few episodes that's happened.
And we already did this year with Die Hard as well.
Yeah, so I recognize the year. Yeah, so Die Hard, we did 1988, excuse me. You had Roger Rabbit, Rain Man, Coming to America, Twins. Kind of give you an idea.
Yeah.
I always forget Roger Rabbit is so old.
Really? I remember. I know. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I really only associate Robert Zemeckis a lot with the 80s in general.
Well,
so.
there's just like we've talked about it before, and I think it's been a while since it's come up, but Roger Rabbit just aged really well.
Yeah, no, I think it's because it's a period piece already.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that makes it feel old is when you think about the actors in it.
Yeah,
because
like how young they are.
Yeah, like Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, or even Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, like they're really, really young in it, and they're not that young in it.
Did you do your movie count?
Oh yeah, you go first.
I had 22.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
I had 25.
Really?
Yeah, I was very surprised by that.
I'm surprised. Yeah, from the 80s. Yeah,
yeah, I was pretty
there was
good.
definitely
Some of them I was like, I forgot that movie existed. Like Cocoon 2. Why is there a sequel to Cocoon?
Right. But have you actually seen Cocoon 2?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
That's not a bad one for...
Like just do sequels?
Well, I was going to say our theme, the reason we picked Big was youth.
Yeah. If you don't listen last week.
Yeah.
Or the end of last week, I should say.
It's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Cocoon's great. It's a really good movie.
What do you got for your synopsis of Big?
So usually I think about it more, but I forgot to do it until about 5 minutes ago. A woman falls in love with a 12-year-old stuck in a 30-year-old body.
I like that's the one that you said. That's where you went with it.
Because this movie is fucking weird. It gets so weird.
It's super weird, but it's also super... It won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah.
I know. I was kind of like... I was surprised, but not surprised. It's a very well written movie.
Yes, it is.
It is a very good movie. I was actually, I haven't seen it in so long. I forgot like really how emotionally grounded it strangely is,
and
very like even though it's very fantastical, it's very much grounded in reality.
Yeah, like a lot of the situations. I mean, also just Tom Hanks is wonderful in it.
He was like this was his first Academy Award nomination.
No, wait. He won the Academy Award.
No, he didn't. He didn't win until Philadelphia.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure because I was reading about it. I'm pretty sure because I read about it.
Oh no, he won Golden Globe.
Yes,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because he didn't win his first Academy Award for Philadelphia, and then the following year he won for Forrest Gump. So he won 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and then he won a Golden Globe for.
He also fucking has a Presidential Medal of Freedom from Obama.
I don't even know what the fuck that means.
He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's Tom Hanks. Like the president literally said, "Do what you want."
I didn't know that.
You have the Medal of Freedom.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm gonna definitely look into that.
How to get Presidential Medal of
I just want to
Freedom.
read also like who else has it.
Yeah, right. He's like, of course Tom Hanks would fucking have it. He's fucking America's dad.
Tom Hanks always makes me think of Molly, actually.
No?
Yeah, because I can't remember what it was. We were talking about it was a scandal with another actor, and we were talking about that.
Oh, and it's like if something like that were to happen with Tom Hanks,
she would have been like horribly heartbroken if she found out he was like a total
creep or
blank,
something. Yeah.
You know?
Was it because of Bill Cosby?
Oh no, I actually think it was Kevin Spacey.
Oh,
I think we were talking about the Kevin
okay.
Spacey thing. And yeah, and I was just like, that would be like if Woody was a fucking creep. Like that would suck.
They put a new spin on the name Woody.
Sorry. It would make the term "there's a snake in my boot" a little darker.
Someone poisoned the water hole.
That's what happens.
All right, so let's get back. Let's go back and drop back to gravity.
Someone poisoned the water hole. There's so much I want to say. I can't. Okay.
Let's go into director, writer, and all that stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So this was directed by Penny Marshall, who most famously I would say is known from the Laverne and Shirley show. She was Laverne.
Oh, as an actress.
Yeah. She was married to Rob Reiner. I'm chewing on my lip a lot. Sorry. But also she directed, other than this, really the biggest ones that I saw was like A League of Their Own and The Preacher's Wife.
And
those were the biggest ones that I saw, other than Big,
Riding Cars with Boys, Drew Barrymore, and Jumpin' Jack Flash with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, the 80s stuff. But yeah, I really think this movie. I'm putting speculation out here. I think this movie came together because of Penny Marshall. Because even though like Elizabeth Perkins' character as Susan is kind of like a very one-dimensional character, there is dimension to her and her growth. And I wouldn't be surprised if that growth is because Penny Marshall probably read the script as like, this is just about a guy who becomes a kid and this woman just falls in love with him for no reason. Like, can we have more reason for this? Like, can we have some? Because I'm just thinking the 80s and a lot of female characters aren't written that well,
Yeah,
especially love interests,
because they're always like they're intertwined with whoever the male lead is.
Yes, which
usually.
she very much is in this movie. But I'm like I said, I'm putting speculation out there. I think Penny Marshall is the reason why there's more of a character for Elizabeth Perkins.
And I was reading too. This is the first film directed by a female to like make over $100 million.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, because it had a budget of $18 million and it grossed $151 million.
Oh, cool.
So it did really well.
I mean, Tom Hanks. This is peak '80s Tom Hanks as well. So like, oh my God, yeah. I'll get into that after when we go into stars. But like, this movie went through so many different people that was going to play.
Yeah,
Josh.
and it would have been a very different movie.
Every single person would have been a very different movie. Like Tom Hanks just steals the show in this goddamn movie.
If you've never seen this and you like Tom Hanks,
this is quite quintessential Tom Hanks.
Yeah, like if this, because also I know, because he had this '80s thing with Tom Hanks, but then also you had his later like roles that he did. Like
this is kind of like that when it's starting to shift.
I'm talking about like Catch Me. I like if you know Tom Hanks of like from Catch Me If You Can, Road to Perdition, that era of Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah,
that would make sense to me. Depending on your age too, that would make sense to me. But this is definitely something I would say jump back. Like if you like Tom Hanks, and you want to see him kind of young and quirky, this is definitely a recommendation. Because I would get that because The Terminal. You had this era in like the 2000s.
The Terminal, he's kind of quirky in it though.
That's my favorite Tom Hanks movie.
Really?
I love The Terminal.
Let's save on that until we get to Tom Hanks. But yeah, so directed by Penny Marshall, and like I'm putting out speculation, but I could be wrong because also one of the main writer on it, I would say. Well, let's just really quick. There's two writers, Gary Ross and Spielberg. I just kind of like we wanted
and Spielberg.
Yeah, Spielberg.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
You just said Spielberg.
I said Anne. You heard me say and I said Anne. Her name is Anne Spielberg.
Okay, yeah, I heard Anne Spielberg.
No, not Anne. Anne, okay. Steven Spielberg's sister. Who doesn't really have a lot of IMDb credits. She looked like she did just a little bit more producing than anything.
Yeah, she leaned more on the producing side, it seemed. Because she's also a producer of this.
Yeah, she's a producer on this, and she was a producer on an 80s show called Amazing Stories, which
I saw that.
I kind of remember seeing reruns when I was a kid, and they're amazing stories. They're just kind of like...
Are they like Twilight Zone, but not scary? Or are they just like...
Yeah-ish. I wouldn't say... I mean, it's like... They're more of like, there might be some fantastic, magical surrealism put into it, but is definitely more. It's more of like lighthearted, like Big. How Big is? It's
like lighthearted fantasy.
Yeah,
stuff.
family oriented.
I would love that. I think I would enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just being an asshole.
Okay.
So let's go back up to Gary Ross, who is credited for screenplay. Who maybe I'm wrong because looking at what he has written, he wrote Pleasantville. Mm-hmm. And he wrote Ocean's 8, or one of the screenplay writers for Ocean's 8. Then Seabiscuit, and he was also a screenplay writer for the first Hunger Games.
Yeah, just the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that one's called.
It's just called Hunger Games.
It is?
Yeah.
Not like...
Because it's the beginning of the Hunger Games series.
Not
Mockingjay.
Not Mockingjay Phoenix Firebird. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know any of the titles of those movies.
I know the second one's Mockingjay, but I don't remember the third one.
There's another one, a series I'm wholly uninterested in that I totally missed. I saw the first one.
What about Divergent?
Same thing.
Yep. There we go.
I watched the first Hunger Games. It was just so uninteresting.
I think it was like that was really at that time the books turned into movie franchises, which just kind of started to get
stale,
watered down.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because we started with pretty much like Lord of the Rings, really, and then we got
then it went a very young fantasy
because then it went
you
to
had Twilight,
Harry Potter, Twilight. Well, Harry Potter first. And
well,
then
I'm not doing like in order. I'm just thinking of them. Hunger Games, Divergence, Maze Runner. Yeah, Maze Runner.
Almost Maze Runner. I don't think they fit. I think they only did the first book.
Oh, okay.
And then there's also Aragon. What was the
fucking
what was
John
the
Malkovich is what's his name? Galgabox.
I've never read Aragon.
He plays the evil king.
Oh, okay.
But it's like this.
What was the Nicolas Cage one? Percy.
Oh, Percy Jackson. Well, that wasn't Nicolas Cage. That's a...
Oh, Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
All right, we're spiraling.
Holy shit, there's a lot, right? Oh my god.
I said, it's just after from Lord of the Rings to Harry Potter and Twilight, it just got super just
everything got made into a live action picture.
Anything that kids were just fucking all like, ah!
Remember Host?
Yeah, fucking Stephanie Meyer.
Yeah, another Stephanie Meyer thing with aliens instead.
Yeah, it was Twilight, but with aliens.
Yeah.
Gary Ross. That's where Gary Ross took us.
I always find it so funny when there is Gary Ross doing Pleasantville and Seabiscuit, where the lead.
Also, Pleasantville should definitely watch if you guys haven't.
Yeah, it's really good. That's also just visually really cool.
Yeah.
But
Tobey Maguire, because that Pleasantville Seabiscuit.
Yeah, it's just interesting because did Gary have a say in it, or did they imagine Toby? It's just funny. I'm like, how did that happen?
I could see it because obviously Pleasantville came out first. I could see that Gary was probably working on the script for Seabiscuit and was like, and since he's a big name, in fucking Hollywood, probably with producers and with director, be like, I was seeing Tobey Maguire while I was writing this. So if we can get Toby, I think he would be our perfect choice.
Do you remember a correlation between Seabiscuit and Spider-Man 2?
What do you mean a correlation?
The my back thing, because he did Seabiscuit and he got a really bad back injury, and then they put the my back thing in there because he was having trouble doing stunts because of his back. This is something I vaguely remember, and I don't remember if I just heard it from somewhere or
Snapple facts.
Yeah, it's a Snapple fact. But I remember there's some kind of correlation.
It could have been just a coincidence, but there may have been maybe it was something they put in there as haha, he hurt himself.
Yeah,
in real life. How meta! We're going into the Spider-Verse. Sorry.
So you can't confirm or deny that.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
If anyone can remember if that's a real thing or a fever dream, let me know.
We're going into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man and his bad back.
Okay.
Because if it is true, then because in the new Tom Holland one, there's a whole my back joke.
Oh yeah, he pops his back.
Yeah,
I think that's a call back to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, but then in Spider-Man 2, a call back to Seabiscuit. And that means that Seabiscuit is in
all right, we got to get Sam Raimi on the phone. Do you have his number?
Wouldn't that be cool if we could do that kind of shit?
You're right.
Two bears.
Let's go. Let's
just call him. Let's just call him. Let's just ask him. Let's just call him.
You want to call him? I'm not going to call him. No, I'm gonna FaceTime him. Don't fucking FaceTime him. All right, so let's go into starring.
Yes,
but really quick, let me read that wiki part of who was gonna be casted before we get into it. Okay,
cool.
Because it's fucking. If you guys haven't seen Big, or if you have seen Big, I want you to imagine what this movie would have been like with each of the actors that are going to come up.
There's one I'm very excited for you to bring up.
Fair. Oh, also, at the beginning of this movie is inspired, or has been said to be inspired by an Italian film called Da Grande, which apparently has it's very just similar story. Guy that wishes to be big. Anywho, all right, so Steven Spielberg was originally attached to direct the film and wanting to cast Harrison Ford as Josh. But Spielberg dropped out when his son Max was born. So then Kevin Costner, Steve Guttenberg, Warren Beatty, and Dennis Quaid were all offered the role of Josh, all of whom turned it down. Albert Brooks was also offered the role, but turned it down as he didn't want to play a kid. John Travolta wanted to play Josh, but the studio wasn't interested in casting him.
I think he would have been good.
Yeah, he would have been fun.
I think it would have been fun.
Oh, I'm a kid.
Yeah. So, I love toys. I never realized he laughed like that.
Oh, Battlefield Earth. All right. Sean Penn was considered for the role of Josh, but Penny Marshall deemed him too young, that's fair actually, because he was like in his mid-20s, early 20s at this time. Gary Busey auditioned for the role of Josh.
How you doing, Gary? That would have been terrifying.
Penny Marshall didn't think he could pull off playing an adult. Andy Garcia read for Josh, but one of the studio executives didn't want to spend $18 million for a kid to grow up to be Puerto Rican. Garcia is actually Cuban. Oh, sorry. Every time I read this, I'm just like, this is fucking insane. Deborah Winger tried to convince Penny Marshall to rewrite Josh into a woman. And then Robert De Niro was originally cast in the lead role with Elizabeth Perkins.
That's my favorite one.
He later dropped out due to scheduling conflicts, quote unquote, and was replaced by Tom Hanks. Oh, okay, so what do we got? Harrison Ford, Kevin Costner, Steve Guttenberg, Warren Beatty, Dennis Quaid, Albert Brooks, John Travolta, Sean Penn, Gary Busey, Andy Garcia, Robert De Niro, maybe Deborah Winger was talking about. So like 11, 12 different people before it landed on Tom Hanks.
Robert De Niro would have been really funny.
It would have been. It would have been like...
I don't think it would have worked, but I think it would have been really funny.
I don't know. It could have worked. You've seen Bad Grandpa, right? He just acts like a child the entire time.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been very different for De Niro. Like, that could have been a very big turning point in De Niro's
he could
career.
have been a different De Niro today.
Actor.
Yeah.
We could have had De Niro as Forrest Gump. Life's like a box of chocolates. You talking to me? You talking to me? Life is like a box of chocolates. You talking to me?
I think my favorite. Analyze This is probably my favorite De Niro movie.
That doesn't surprise me. Taxi Driver's my favorite.
I just think he's so fucking funny in Analyze
He is
This.
hilarious.
And he's like, his character's not supposed... it is supposed to be, but as a person, he's not supposed to... Like, you know what I mean?
Well, no, I mean, the whole thing is like, yeah, his character is terrifying in reality if you think about it, but that's kind of the funny thing is because of Billy Crystal and just the comedic sense of the movie, that's what makes it funny, because you're like, I'm not supposed to be laughing, but...
Well, like, and even like he's coming to his own, like, he's making his own psychological, like, analysis, and he's like, you're good, you. And he's like, Billy Crystal's like, I didn't do anything.
No. I know what you did.
You're good, you. I think he's phenomenal in that movie.
It's amazing to like. I kind of forget about a lot of Robert De Niro's comedic roles because
he's always, because I feel like especially once he got like typecasted as like the mafia guy.
Yeah, the mafia guy. Yeah,
and that's why I Analyze This is funny, is because he is that mafia guy, but it's not Goodfellas.
Yeah. No, exactly.
He's having complete... I don't want to laugh at mental breakdowns, but he's having mental breakdowns.
Yeah.
And having these epiphanies about...
But like my favorite roles of Robert De Niro aren't even the mafia guys. Well, Casino is fucking fantastic. But it's more like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull, like his early career when he's not the mafia guy yet. He's just this young, really aspiring actor who's really fucking transformative and good. You know, like he plays a psychopath in Taxi Driver, and Raging Bull he plays the fucking, I forget the boxer's name, but yeah,
Yeah.
He's
So
we talked enough about Robert De Niro.
No, I just think I think it's kind of important though, because Robert De Niro could, especially at this age, could have. I think it. I don't know. Like I just said, he could have been in it. I just feel like it would have been a very different movie. Yeah. And I don't know if it would have been as charming, because Tom Hanks has
a charm to him.
Like
he has a baby face. You know, he has very soft. Features, and like, especially at this time, like he's 30 years old or so in this movie, and he looks like he's maybe like 25, 20s,
Yeah, and he's just like, he just has this, and I mean, Tom Hanks always has had this charm to him that I just don't, Robert De Niro doesn't have. Yeah. And I think it's a lot of that, it's like, hi, my name's Tom Hanks. You're like, hi, good to see you. Like, Tom Hanks. Because even now, too, in his older age, he still has that, like on interviews and stuff, he still has that kind of draw to him where you'd want to sit down and just have a cup of coffee. And like,
I wish I could get Tom, like the timbre of his voice, like the resonance. It's very, very unique Tom Hanks, But yeah, let's actually, since we've been talking about him so much, he's the lead star of this movie. If you guys didn't know, let's move into people that are in the movie. So you already said you're for sure, The Terminal is probably your favorite Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, because I was looking at his list, and I was like, oh, yeah, like, I mean, I really love I would probably say it's a tie. I'm going to go Terminal, but very close is The Burbs and Green Mile.
Oh, Green Mile, he is really good, yeah.
And The Burbs I like because also, if you've been listening to this, and Jacob can totally attest this, I really love chaotic energy.
Oh, yeah, and that movie is so chaotic.
It's oozing chaos.
That movie is brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I like video games and broken video games for that. I just love watching chaos, and not in the sense of like Meet the Fockers or Meet the Parents stresses me out, that kind of chaos.
Yeah, that's anxiety driven.
Yeah, but just chaotic energy I really feed off.
The Burbs is kind of almost more, it's almost like a mystery story as well.
Yeah, so like it's a comedy thriller.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah. It's a dark comedy. Because The Burbs is definitely up there as one of my favorites. Like, it's really hard between like that and Turner and Hooch. I just love how Tom Hanks was able to act with an animal as his co-star and fucking be his honesty with this goddamn dog. Like the scenes that he's improving with a dog, and it's comic gold.
I've actually never seen it.
Oh my god, it is.
And this is the era, right?
Yeah,
the 80s era.
He fucking did 13 movies in the 80s.
Wow. Bachelor Party, Money
Bachelor
Pit,
Party.
The Burbs.
The first movie that he actually had a lead role in is this movie called Mazes and Monsters. And it's an anti-D&D game or movie, because at this time in the 80s is when D&D was like Satan's playground. Yeah. And so it's about, he plays a young kid, he gets so lost in the world of D&D that he believes that it's all real, and he starts having a mental breakdown, and it's really weird and super like
Doug.
Doug? Like the show Doug?
You never hear the dark fan theory about that?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Something like that. But yeah, no, it's really strange. Really, really strange movie that I forgot existed until I was looking through the IMDb list. But Bachelor Party, The Burbs, Turner and Hooch, Joe versus Volcano was actually 1990, I want to say.
I mean, Philadelphia is pretty amazing too.
Yeah, Philadelphia. Oh, I was gonna say Forrest Gump is my other like favorite role from him.
I cannot stand that movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just can't.
I kind of like the passive narrator going through like
a storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's not necessarily passive, but like he goes through. It's just like the movie and the book itself is a narration of like America's history, like all perceived through the eyes of a simple man.
Yeah, I think what it is.
Be a simple.
I think what it is. Remember in Liar Liar when he's like chugging water and it's like, come on, like that. That movie has so many of those moments for me. Oh. Because of not only like everything that Forrest has like invented accidentally or on purpose or whatever. Yeah. There's that, like it kind of gets ridiculous, but then the whole Jenny thing and the shit she pulls. I always have those moments. I'm like, come on.
I love you, Jenny.
But I don't. Yeah, watched it twice and have attempted to watch it, and I just can't really get into it.
That's fair. I mean, I've read the book as well.
Oh, Lady Killers is really good.
That's really That's a weird. That's an off the beaten path.
Yeah,
weird comedy.
But he's really good. It's another like kind of like dark comedy. But he's really funny in that in a really kind of twisted way.
So let's move on to Elizabeth Perkins, who literally to this Millie Bobby Brown is going to grow up to look exactly like her. Like, I really think Millie Bobby Brown.
I didn't realize there was a relation there.
What do you mean?
Is there a relation?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I thought that's
no. I'm just like, it's just like when Millie Bobby.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, when she was when she still was the first in Stranger Things.
I thought you were gonna be like, oh, that's her mom or something.
No,
like that.
It just fucking blows my mind every time I look at Millie Bobby Brown. I see a young Elizabeth.
That's
Perkins.
funny. I always saw like a Natalie Portman or something.
Yeah, a lot of people always see like a Natalie Portman.
No, but you're. I feel like you're more correct on that. Especially in this movie, just like I mean, with the hair and the makeup, it's super 80s. But if you just look at her facial structure, I could see that a lot. Yeah.
So Elizabeth Perkins, really most notable, really like this movie. She was Wilma in the Flintstones.
That's what I recognize her from.
And I remember her also from a movie from my childhood that my mom really liked watching called Indian Summer.
I remember that movie.
But
Weeds. I mean, that's like.
And then I never really watched Weeds.
I didn't either, but
she was a main character in it. She's not the main character.
No, she's in like 64 episodes or something like that. She's also like in the Jiminy Glick movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I really want to watch again. For those that don't know, Jiminy Glick was this thing back in the day where Martin Short played
a fake talk show host.
It kind of like know what it was? It was before Between Two Ferns.
Oh, I guess it kind of was.
Yeah, he would go and talk to.
It was also kind of around the time of the Tom Green show and the Andy Dick show too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I was so young when I watched it, but he would just be. I think I go with Between Two Ferns because he would also be pretty offensive.
Oh yeah.
But like, and it was funny too because he would say things to celebrities, and then like some people would really like jive with it. Or some people would get really, like, you could tell they would get really annoyed, and that's what was fun about it. And he was really obnoxious, but I love Jiminy Glick. I think he's fucking hilarious.
I never really got into Jiminy Glick.
He's annoying. I get it.
Oh no, it's just I never got into it.
I want to watch it again because I'm like, how well did that age?
Probably not well.
I remember at one he was calling Whoopi Goldberg Oprah, so that's not
okay, moving forward. There's just a couple more actresses to just kind of like, I would just say note because they're important characters for the story.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Robert Loggia, who he's like one of the lead generals in Independence Day, is like that's the other biggest thing I could really recognize him from. Like, he's an older actor, so he probably had like more stuff from the 70s and 60s. He plays the like owner of the business, Macmillan. John Hurd, who plays Paul, he's Kevin's dad in Home Alone.
Yeah.
Is there any other quick thing that you could recognize him from?
Snake Eyes.
I don't really remember Snake Eyes.
Yeah, I remember him vaguely in that.
He's been around in the 80s. And then playing best.
Oh, an O. He's an O.
Oh.
Was that an accident?
That was on accident. Yeah.
O's really good. It's very intense though.
Oh yeah, it's a fucking Othello.
It's really.
And then Jared Rushton, who plays Billy, his young best friend, was middle brother in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
And he's one of the kids in Overboard.
Oh, I don't remember Overboard.
Mainly.
That's Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Goldie Hawn? No, I don't remember who's in that now.
I think we're right.
Yeah, I think Goldie. I'm pretty certain about Goldie Hawn.
Anywho, and then I just want. Oh, then John Lovitz, SNL, a wedding singer. One of my favorite moments in Wedding Singer. I love you
bring him up because he's in the movie for like a minute and a half.
No, Also, I love John Lovitz.
He's funny.
The Wedding Singer. When after he's doing this, he does his singing audition, and then. Adam
He's losing his mind.
And I'm reaping all the benefits.
And then I guess, like, just, I don't really...
I'd put Deborah Jo Rupp, like, really quick. She was the mom from That 70s Show.
Yeah, and then there's David Moscow, who plays a young Josh, who I didn't really recognize.
I didn't recognize him from anything as well.
And then Mercedes Ruhel, who plays Josh's mom, and she was kind of around off and on forever.
Yeah. So... That's starring. Do you have any other stuff before you go into some reviews?
I think that's...
Let's get into some reviews. Let's review this movie.
Okay. So, on Metacritic, it has 18 positive, 1 mixed, and 1 negative. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up here. I got pizza sauce on my journal.
I've been craving Domino's so bad.
Did you have it the other day?
Yeah, I think
I awoke in something.
Also, like watching television, there's a Domino's commercial every fucking 30 seconds. And also, they're starting to piss me off. Well, that's for another time.
Michael Blowen at Boston Globe. Big is an example of what has become rare in Hollywood, a self-confident comedy that transforms an old gimmick into a new, vivid experience. It's as funny for the kids as it is for the adults, and for that reason alone, can't be recommended too highly.
It's an old gimmick? Is it really?
Yeah. Around this time, too, I was looking at, there's 14 going on 30.
14 going on?
Yeah, how terrible does that sound?
14 going on 30?
Yeah.
And then later on they do 13 going on 30, which makes so much more sense.
It just sounds better.
So yeah, the 3, 30.
Yeah. 18 again.
17 again? Sorry, I'm just now, I'm making connections here.
And I guess
Freaky Friday kinda.
Yeah,
Vice Versa came out this year.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of body swappy, transformy stuff happening.
I don't know. Okay.
I'm still really angry about the 14 going on 30 thing.
Yeah, that actually, my brain can't really process that.
Doesn't work. That was like a made-for-TV movie. Let's see. Okay. Lloyd Sachs. Socks?
S-A-C-A what?
S-A-C-H-S.
Sachs?
Lloyd Sachs. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. At the show
because he's going to be listening.
Yeah, right. Chicago Sun-Times. You never know. It's too involved in administering its reversion fantasy to acquisition guilty yuppies to cast an eye on its own venture status. This one I didn't really care for, but it's the only one. And the contradictions don't stop there. This is a celebration of the Peter Pan syndrome. Was directed by a woman. Petty Marshall adds another layer of dishonesty, which I wasn't really sure.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it was, again...
That sounds pretty sexist.
Yeah, well, this was also written in 1988, so I can't find the full...
Yeah.
So I don't know what the context of what that meant, and I don't think it was great. That's why I was like,
I don't know. That sounds like, even if it's out of context, just that's kind of... yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's not great.
Because I'm pretty sure the context is there.
And then the negative one made me laugh.
Jesus, okay.
Jonathan Rosenbaum at Reader. Once again, the overall premise is milked for some mild titillation involving the hero's sexual innocence, making one wonder if the genre's popularity might involve some deeply sublimated form of kiddie porn.
Whoa.
Arguably the distilled ideology essence of squeaky clean Reaganism. It's like, damn.
Welcome to the 80s, ladies and gentlemen.
That went down a fucking rabbit hole.
Someone's holding on to some pent-up anger about the Reagan
and that's what kills
administration.
Me too. Well, like this one too, like this doesn't have a date next to it. A lot of them do.
It has a date in there.
I know, but I want to know exactly when this was written. It doesn't say it was written in 88 or when it was written, and the link doesn't work anymore.
It's like, oh no, it's definitely dated itself.
In all the time that we have done this podcast, never once have I seen a review with the term kiddie porn or Reaganism in it. Just saying. I was just reading it. I was like, I went to my partner. I was like, Fallon, you got to read this shit. This one's good.
You know what's actually really crazy is like I actually agree with little bits from every single one of those.
Yeah.
Because this movie has a lot of. It's a very fun and innocent story in a lot of ways. And its journey... what's really strange is that, like, Joshua is the main character. This movie isn't, like... It's about him, but it's not about how he really grows. It's about how he, like, affects everybody around him more. In a weird sense, like, because his arc is kind of like, I want to be big, but then I regret it.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of like ends up falling into the adult ways. And like, yeah, then when he decides like, I want to be a kid again, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the whole thing, but it's not that interesting, really. It's like, it's fun to watch him like learn this stuff and just be, but like the biggest growth of the movie is really Susan and how she learns from him to be. Well, then it also kind of turns to a fucking Hallmark movie in a weird way.
Well, that's what I was right.
It's like uptight businesswoman learns to be young again with man that has child mind.
With quirky toy guy. Well, kind of to go off your like kind of weird, what I think the weirdest thing about this is the very a very sudden shift in movie identity.
Like at what point?
Like at the halfway mark, it's about a kid now trying to juggle suddenly being an adult, and then it suddenly turns into a romantic comedy that.
Well, and then as soon as he has sex with her, it's different.
Yeah,
it's also he's different.
Yeah, but it's like I think it's like watching this movie now with the lens that we always talk about,
mm-hmm.
Where sometimes you're like, oh, this is actually better than I remember, and I'm usually like the advocate over here, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen had the potential to, but with this one, actually watching it through this, I actually didn't like it as much.
It's interesting is like I found a different level of respect for it because I hadn't watched it in so long. I just thought it was a goofy movie. Sorry. I just thought it was
Tower of Cheese.
I always just kind of associate it with like, it's Tom Hanks being slapstick, being a goofy,
acting like a kid
type thing and whatnot. I never like pulled out or like acknowledged some of like the softer, sweeter moments or like honest moments that Tom Hanks has in it. Or even like I didn't even like fully like connect with like how much Susan is like clearly ready to go have sex with this man in his fucking apartment. And she's like, no, maybe not. And he's like being so aloof because he's so unaware. Like she's
coming on to him.
Yeah. And like, that's just not even on his radar, you know? And it's like watching stuff like that. It was like, oh man, like I never fully grasped that. And like one specific moment is when Billy takes Josh to the city and they go into that fucking hotel. Like, yeah, this place looks good. You're like, are you sure? Like, it doesn't look good to me. Like, yeah, no, it's fine. There's like sex workers and like drug dealers on the streets. Like, this is not a clean spot. It's not in the 80s. No. But then when Billy leaves him in the room and you just really see the fear, like this 13-year-old kid, like realizing the reality of what he has done to himself by wishing like he's like, why did I make this wish? And he's just breaking down and he's tearing up and like he's scared and there's a gunshot out the window and he's in a foreign place. It's like culture shock and all he wants to do is like he just curls up in a ball and I could just like see like I would just wish I could wake up and be a kid again. I just want to be a kid again. Just let me be a kid again. This is the biggest mistake I've ever had is to have this wish, Mm-hmm. And it's just such an honest moment that I was tearing up watching. I'm like, oh fuck, this is strong. This is, ladies and gentlemen, acting at its finest right here. Academy Award nominee, Tom Hanks. Sorry. I know, but I went down a rabbit hole there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of like what I was getting at too. Is like once, like I liked all of. It's just when it turns into a romantic kind of like aspect to it, I just get kind of checked out because I'm like, I kind of wanted more of the juggling of the being an adult now.
Yeah,
and then when it becomes he's had sex and now he's an adult and now he's wears suits when he goes to the office and drinks
black coffee
and shit like that.
That's kind of like that's where like this movie has like weird shift moments like that where it's like, oh, that's just where they're taking it,
know what it is? It's that like it's way more subtle, but it's kind of has that feel to me that when we've talked about other movies where like almost a rewrite happened. And a lot of the times it's really blaring and you're like, who the, obviously they jumped in and changed a bunch of shit. This was way more subtle, but it had that, and maybe it wasn't, this isn't what happened, but it felt that way to me where I was like, oh, they decided to actually, let's add a more romantic element to help the story progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I didn't actually really think about it. I can't even think about without that where you could have it go off the top of my head without that element. But
yeah, I mean, because it's tropey. And in the sense of like,
it's fucking 80s.
It's very 80s, very tropey. I mean, the 80s, it's the 80s, they were still like growing as, like it's really interesting to think back at the 80s. Like there was a lot of like masterful like screenwriters at this time. Like, don't get me wrong, but also a lot of the stuff from the 80s, there's a lot of just like to comparison to today, like it's very subpar. Like this movie won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Mm-hmm. Today, this movie would be like something that's played on Disney. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It's not. It's not Academy Award worthy screenwriting today because we've evolved as artists and as audiences and as people to really like take more speculation into certain things that are tropey like this.
Well, and yeah, with the 80s too, I think a problem that is like very blaring in today's day and age is the like lack of accessibility in a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's like when you watch it, it's like this entire cast is a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
And it just like, you're like, okay, white people problems, but with magic,
right?
Right. And,
yeah.
And I think that also gives it this level of like disillusion now, where it is kind of like, and it goes into that. It just makes it feel older.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally.
It makes the tropes kind of pop out a lot
because they're leaning into the tropes. Because what they're doing,
this is what created the tropes.
Yeah. Well,
not all of them, but a lot of tropes were. You can line up a bunch of 80s movies and you can go like you can.
I don't know if they created the tropes, but they were definitely they were just popping because they're used so much at this point.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're used a lot.
Because like even like this one is very much like the whole idea of like this toy company that has a bunch of business people that don't understand how to do toys.
Because also it's the 80s, the height of the yuppie.
Yeah, so
there's
it's like
money.
Yeah, it's like it's now all about the money, and like that's kind of the thing with Macmillan is like you get this sense of youth from Macmillan that he's constantly trying to like figure out. Like he's kind of like he's a genius actually, and it's actually the smartest choice in the movie was him hiring Josh to be his toy guy.
Yeah,
because he sees this guy who's constantly playing with toys and like understands them. He's like,
I think I'd kill it at that job.
We both would. Are you kidding me?
You want to pay me to play with toys? Let's do it.
Well, but what's really interesting is to think about like how out of reality in a strange way this movie is, because it's very much built in this world of like the business people that are more about the numbers and not about the toys. That's not what was happening in the 80s with toys. And like anybody who's watched The Toys That Made Us, the people that are making these toys are all artistic, like minded people. There are the business minded people that are helping the marketing and whatnot.
But that's the end you're talking about. Is what he got into. He got into the marketing, not the, because they even have a whole conversation about GoBots versus Transformers.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I started cracking up, and she's like, "Is that a real thing?" I'm like,
"Oh yeah.
They tried
also
real
a
hard.
Prehistoric Transformer already exists before this movie,
but like. I'm like, they tried. The GoBots tried really hard.
They did. I mean, the GoBots were actually before the Transformers.
Yeah, the Transformers took it.
That was because they got the comic.
Yeah.
They got the Marvel deal. They got the Disney treatment.
I love those kind of weird correlations, like the Munsters and the Addams Family. Mm-hmm. Like why one got more popular than the other.
And just because it's just...
Well, like a lot of people don't even know.
It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, like Munsters and Addams Family. The originals were out at the same time. Mm-hmm. Just one got more popular than the other. Mm-hmm. I would love for them to bring the Munsters back. The Munsters is great.
I mean, Rob Zombie's doing it already.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's doing a Munsters movie.
What?
Yeah. You didn't know this?
No!
Yeah. Rob Zombie's doing a Munsters movie. And he's actually trying to stay true to the comedy
Manifest
of it as well.
my own destiny over here.
But
that's
like
Rob Zombie doing the Munsters.
Well, and he's trying to stay true to the comedy of it too. So it's not going to be like
name one. The House of a Thousand Corpses.
It's like House of a Thousand Corpses.
That's where I go to. I'm like,
Munsters, Halloween and Munsters. But I mean, if you've seen like the sequel to The Devil's Rejects, I can't remember the name of it. It's got some like dark, very much Rob Zombie style Devil's Rejects humor in it. But anywho,
the hell was that called?
I can't remember. It was okay.
Yeah, it was I mean, it was just weird because they all like died at the end.
But yeah, no, just like this movie, the tropes that it leans into, and then so I guess a big thing, like what I was talking about, is Josh's character arc through it, and how he changes. He affects those around him more than he really kind of changes for himself. Because, like I said, with Susan, she opens up and, you know, she finds a way to be true to a man. Also, Susan is a very one-dimensional character because, one, we don't know where she came from. Two, we don't know what she does at this place.
Mm-mm. Except hype up the guy she's
sleep
dating.
with the guy that's doing the top job.
So that was also I loved that when he's like starts doing well, immediate attraction to Josh, which I was like with her like boyfriend or whatever standing there, which I was like, this is funny. But then later on when he becomes like aware of it, him calling her out for the like ladder of people she's like slept with.
Yeah,
I was like, this is brutal.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
I can't believe you brought up Goldberg or whatever the fuck his name was. I was like,
with McMillan, the boss. Like, you see him kind of like his company's now gonna like be successful again pretty much because of Josh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in that meeting where McMillan's just like watching him play with the toy and just like, this is what we need around here more, you know.
Yeah, youth.
Yeah, it's like we're like that's why he goes the fucking chopstick scene though is still one of my favorite movie scenes.
Well, before that though, also like no, like in that note when they first like meet up at the store.
Yeah,
and he's like, talking about the old version of the hockey game.
Yeah.
Where you could like move them and you could spin them, but now they just go back and forth. I don't know why they changed it. And he just goes, I don't know. And he's like, it's like he's almost lost touch with his own company, and this guy is reigniting this. Like, I should be more hands on.
Even when they bump into each other when he first gets the job, and he's like, "Yeah, we could use a little bit more hustle around here,
right, Paul or whatever his name was."
Paul, yeah. He's like, "I hustle, I
hustle." And again, he looks at her for affirmation, and that goes into the kind of like one dimensional.
Well, and he's also like looking down her blouse, like, is that shot really needed to get some cleavage and bra?
Well, that's what I was like. That goes into that romance. That's where I feel like that weird abrupt thing happened, because if you had just had this movie where he's trying to juggle the adult thing and he, in a weird like adolescent awkward way, is kind of pursuing Susan, but she's like, that might have been, it just might have been different.
Yeah, because there's that little hint like, I mean, is it just a 13-year-old boy going, I can see down her blouse?
Boobies.
Or is it like because he's actually attracted to her?
Yeah.
And if he's actually attracted to her, because they do set up that he does have feelings for girls at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, why does, it's like, I feel like in a weird way, he kind of like de-ages. Like he goes from being a 13-year-old boy at some points to being like a 10 or an 8-year-old boy mindset, you know?
Actually, yeah, that's kind of fair. And now that you point that out, like on certain things he was doing.
Yeah. Even like in the toy store, the way that he's so ADD, like, I mean,
he almost seems younger.
Yeah. He, like some 13-year-old boys, I mean, yeah, they're in a fucking toy store. They're going to be like, but that's the way that he's like, yeah, you know, like, you know, they talked about the hockey, and then like all of a sudden, like the piano thing, like fucking total ADD, you know?
Or
like,
even when they're playing laser tag.
Yeah.
It's like, especially, I mean, a 13-year-old boy that's basically what, middle school going into high school?
Yeah, they're in the middle school.
Yeah, like there. I mean, a lot of them are very, I mean, but maybe it's just different in the 80s. A lot of them cared about they didn't want to seem nerdy. Or
there is a sense of like they are kind of already nerdy boys, you know?
Oh, Billy and Josh.
Billy and Josh, yeah. So like, there's like they're goofy kids, you know. That's kind of like a thing that's set up, you know. Because even like Josh at the beginning when they're playing stickball, he's doing the whole like talk of like the Yankees run down, you know, and back up the pitcher, like doing like his baseball announcer, and Billy's just like, come on, pitch to me the ball, you know. So there is this setup of that he is already kind of a goofy kid, but it's kind of like his attention span at some points, or even just like the way that I mean, it could just be the awkwardness of like an adult woman is talking to me type thing. I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, but the blouse shot was really unneeded.
Yeah.
And even like their sex scene was really uncomfortable.
It was, but it's kind of, I feel like that's kind of, it's strangely a needed thing for the narrative because.
Okay, perv. Sorry.
No, just like, I mean, it's interesting. I say for it to be needed because I think it's important to show that that's kind of like that's the relationship that Susan wants, because like it's kind of like never insinuated, like it seems to be insinuated that they don't ever have sex again after that, because he never like initiates anything, because he's just like a kid at mind. He's not thinking about. I mean, I don't know. First time I had sex, I was like, I'm gonna do it again, but. yeah, the way that so how Josh is kind of like more of a conduit. We've spiraled really far into that. Even like with like McMillan, he kind of like he has an effect with McMillan, changes McMillan's character.
I mean that whole like you're saying the chopsticks.
Yeah, the chopsticks
thing is cute.
It's actually it's.
I love that they actually did it too.
Yeah, and I think it was done in only like a couple of takes.
Yeah,
like I remember when that movie when we first got it on VHS, my mom and I were watching it. My mom knew a lot about like the behind the scenes of the movie because this is her favorite Tom Hanks movie. But then like with Paul, like he forces Paul to like look at himself in the mirror in a big way. You know, Paul also kind of like
he doesn't really have any growth.
He doesn't really change, but he's forced to like that's why he's getting angry. He's like forced to realize that he's actually not good at his job.
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. Shut up, Paul.
I don't get it. That I don't get it scene's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. But like their handball fucking scene or whatever that is, whatever they're playing, racquetball. Yeah,
and the keep away thing. I thought it was weird they didn't show Paul hit him for some reason. They just have it in dialogue.
I think it's kind of insinuated when he tackles him down on the ground.
Yeah, no, but I just thought it was weird.
That's fair.
It's not an actual like, you know.
And then Josh all like, I'm hurt. And then Elizabeth or Susan playing nurse, and then she kisses him on the cheek. Yeah, and he's all awkward because he's like, But
so yeah, like the whole premise of this movie is I actually have do I have it with me? I found a Zoltar machine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he finds this quarter game at a fair when he's a kid, and he makes a wish. I wish I was big, which I like too. In this,
which it's kind of the way that it's set up is really it's innocent because he has this crush on a girl, and he wants to like get on a ride with her at the fair. And then her boyfriend shows up, and she's like that whole horribly delivered line. He has a car.
Yeah. And
it's like
he drives.
Oh yeah, he drives.
That's what it was.
It's like, okay. And then Josh's like, oh, I'm just a kid. And then he's not tall enough to get onto this roller coaster ride. Like, hey, hey kid, you can't get on. You're supposed to be this big.
Yeah.
So then, Mopey Josh, and yeah, he finds the Zoltar machine, and he wishes to be big.
Which I was like, I like that just because we've watched so many Make-A-Wish kind of like movie things, being so vague, but the Zoltar machine knew what he meant.
Right.
There's like, bedazzled or, like you make a wish and then it goes horribly wrong,
I mean, it kind of did go horribly wrong. He gave him exactly what he wished for, but he didn't realize the repercussions.
No, I know, but they could have made him 30 feet tall.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a very vague. He didn't say, I wish I was older.
Yeah.
I wish I was 30. Even then, okay, you're older, now you're 70.
What if he just got a really big head?
Yeah.
Like, I can't go to school. Why? I can't pick up my head.
So yeah, he makes this wish and then wakes up the next day. Also, his that whole scene when he wakes up and he goes
following
to the bathroom.
His feet.
Yeah. So you see that clearly this 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy, whatever, is like he jumps out of his bunk bed and hits boom. So he's like he's big now. And then it's just this whole kind of erratic scene where he's like looking in the mirror, thinks it's a trick mirror, and like checks out his junk. Like it's just like, of course, all what you would do.
Yeah.
Like
he's like feeling his chest hair, the scruff.
Yeah.
And
then like panics and goes out of the house. Oh, to go look for the machine, but the carnival's gone now.
Also, I love that he's wearing a Giants shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was on purpose.
Why?
I mean, it's New York, but he's now Giant.
I see your point. Yeah, I was like, New York Giants. What about it? Okay, yeah, that's funny. I didn't put that.
I mean, it could have been the Jets, but no, they chose the Giants.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny. Fun little.
It's really funny to watch Tom Hanks on that fucking kid's bike.
Yeah,
because like when he's sitting down, his legs are just like very awkwardly out.
Well, then the next scene is actually kind of one of my favorites in the entire movie. He like rushes back home to tell mom what happened because that's what a you're a child. That's what you run to mom or dad or whatever. You run to your guardian, and he walks in the door and she's like vacuuming and she looks up at this strange man, just blurts into her house,
who also looks terrified.
Yeah, and she's like, don't, and he goes, and she's like, yeah, she's terrified. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And he runs outside and starts wiping his feet because he thinks that's the problem.
There's so much of just like little innocence of moments that Josh has in this movie, Tom Hanks.
Well, I was reading that apparently they would have what did I say his name was? David Moscow act out the scene.
Oh, really?
And then Tom Hanks would watch him and then try to like copy his mannerisms.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, like that's how his process to like try and get the kid thing down. But then walks back inside and he's like trying to explain that it's me, Josh. But like in all the most terrible ways, and he's like, "My birthday is blah blah blah," and I got a birthmark, and he like pulls down.
I made this for you.
He breaks it. It's just chaotic energy.
Yeah.
But then he like turns around and he pulls down his pants to show his like birthmark. But he's wearing Josh's underwear.
Yeah.
His little like,
what did you do to my son?
The mom pulls out a knife. What did you do to my child? And this whole scene I think is great because mom just like is like, I will cut you, and she starts chasing him around with a butcher knife. It was just good.
No, I mean, he just like the whole thing, like how he like then like calls the mom and like he's like trying to tell her that, you know, I'm okay, but he's like, Josh is gonna be okay, like Josh will be home soon.
That's the problem with this movie, though. That there are these moments that just didn't. From the perspective,
he's giving the mom just like
ransom notes. So that's the problem with this movie is that. Everything, since you're like focusing kind of on Josh and his journey, if you just take that perspective and jump out to the people around him,
yeah,
Josh is kidnapped and the kidnapper is letting him write letters. He's calling mom as the kidnapper.
This is psychopath behavior.
Yeah, it's like there's parts of this movie that are just so weird. And then even like when you go on later, like to the sexual romantic aspect too. Mm-hmm. Susan handles that way too fucking well.
Like when she finally realizes it.
Yeah.
Well, because she's not handling it well when he's trying to tell her.
That's also a great scene.
That is. Because she's like, what are you actually trying to say? And he's like, I'm telling you I'm 13. And she's like, I'm a child too at heart.
Yeah, she's taking it as like, I'm not ready for a commitment. I'm just a child.
Also, like how he's like, I want to go home to my family.
Oh,
and
God,
like,
you're married.
You are married. I knew there was something wrong. She's always, because he is so a little off. As like, because he's clearly not an adult, it's like there is something wrong. It's like that's actually kind of a funny thing. Is like thinking as like a female or like it's just anybody in it, like dating somebody, they're too perfect. There's got to be something wrong.
Where's the red flag?
It's like you're always thinking that at the back of your mind, like I'm having a lot of fun. Where's the baggage?
When's the crazy gonna come out?
Where's the baggage?
But yeah, that whole scene too, where she's just not. He's like being very literal, and she's taking it very like
he's talking in metaphors.
Yeah, like a metaphor of like, no, I'm just a kid at heart. He's like, no, I'm like actually fucking 13.
No, when I was 4 weeks ago, I wished to be big, and now I am, and now I'm in this fucking shit where I'm making toys for like I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like that would actually that's a lot of pressure for a 13-year-old mind to go through, you know.
But yeah, it's just like there's just aspects of this movie that are just so fucking weird, and that does make it feel old, and that's why I think I did just enjoy it more if it was a little more slapsticky and just kind of fumbling, figuring it out kind of bit.
I think that's why it kind of got like the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay is because of how honest it really was with that stuff. Like you have Josh who's then now being honest, and as opposed to Elizabeth just like it takes her this moment when they're talking about the pricing on the comic book thing, create your own adventure. Also, it's a fucking great idea for a comic book toy in a way.
Mm-hmm. It was like a build your own. It was a read your own adventure, but
comic book electronic thing. Yeah. Like she's like they're like then I think it's Paul's like we're really gonna expect young kids spend $20 on a comic book, and then because there's earlier on like when Billy first comes to visit, Billy's like, oh, centipede truck or Centitruck, whatever the thing is,
Centitron or whatever.
And it looks over and like across over is like $59.95.
He's like, it only costs like $10 to make.
Yeah, that only makes like $10 to make. Yeah. Like, and like Josh, like that's actually a very specific thing. Like this callback to on pricing for something for Elizabeth to be like, yeah, but it's like since it costs so little to make, yeah, a kid would pay, and then just like realizing, oh, wait a second, a kid would pay, a kid. Maybe there is something here.
Well, the final thing is the Billy showing up.
Yeah, that's right. Because she's like, "Do you know him?" And Billy's like, "She's like, who are you?" And he's like, I'm his girlfriend. And Billy's like, oh, okay.
Gross.
Yeah. Ooh, girls.
But yeah, it's just like, yeah. And so she like goes and meets him at the pier where he's like already, I liked that too. He went and made the wish.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what's interesting is really quick. The reason why it's taken so long for him to find another Zoltar machine.
Oh, right.
Because he goes back.
It's the 80s and it's a bureaucratic government.
Yeah. Zoltar, like at the fairgrounds where he went to, Zoltar was also a fair wouldn't disappear like that overnight. That's
magical.
No, it was apparently it was a magical fair as well.
But I also like he unplugged the Zoltar machine before he put the coin in.
Yeah, because it was unplugged at the beginning of the movie.
So it's magic.
It's a magic. Okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, they go to City Hall, I guess, or what is it?
Yeah.
To because they're searching all around town for a Zoltar machine, like arcades and stuff. But then they essentially like go to like, where are all the Zoltar machines in New York City?
Type get like a manuscript spreadsheet of them all.
But it's 4 weeks for processing, and then possibly 4 more weeks to receive the shit, because they got like there's computers are very not computery at this point. It's 1988.
Yeah.
You got to actually file it and email it, or not email it, but snail mail it.
Google's not on your phone.
Yeah. So all of that needs to happen. So then when it's hit Billy, there is a very like powerful, like good moment between Billy and Josh. Josh is still an adult. Billy's like, here's the address for the Zoltar machine. You've been a shitty friend. He actually has Billy, the youngest actor, has the one F-bomb in the entire movie.
Yeah, and it's rated PG.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know. I was like, oh, whoa, F-bomb in a PG movie. Awesome. Cool. He gives him the address, and like Josh has to kind of like make the choice, like at some point. And he makes the choice in the middle of the fucking pitch meeting.
Yeah.
I think it's like this is too much for me. I can't do this.
When it's interesting too is like the fact that he like made the wish without talking to his like girl.
Susan.
Yeah, like he's just like,
because he's 13, he's not going to think about doing that. Really, he just wants to be a kid again.
Yeah. Or even like when he's like on the cusp of making the decision, he like goes back to his old neighborhood where he kidnapped a child. Allegedly. It's just like watching children in his big trench coat and show. Just like this. There's so much in this movie that just doesn't feel right.
Oh man.
He's like kids playing with like, they're like throwing up, like it's fall and they're throwing up the piles of leaves.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there quietly smiling to himself. It's like,
it's like somebody, could you see just like a neighbor and like there's like, there's a creepy man in the street watching the children. Bob, get the phone. I think we need to call the authorities.
Hey, Chris. You playing with the leash? I got a popsicle in my pocket. What's his name?
Oh, I can't remember.
Herbert the pervert.
Herbert, yeah.
Herbert the pervert.
Oh, no, that was Jasper or something.
I thought it was Herbert. I thought it like whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Family Guy, whatever.
Yeah, Family Guy. So it is kind of what's interesting. Yeah, so he gets to the Zoltar machine. He unplugs it. He beats it until the magic comes out of it.
Yeah. That's what you got to do with magic, man.
Yeah.
Be like it owes you money.
Be magical! I want my magic! And the magic happens. It turns on. He drops the coin in. He makes the wish. And that's when Susan shows up. And
they have like a little heart-to-heart.
They have a nice heart-to-heart. And it's kind of her like... She's like... It's like she's accepting the reality, but doesn't fully believe it just yet.
But then she has like one comment where she's like, "How old are you actually again?" He's like, 13. She's like, what's 10 years? Keep my number.
Oh yeah. He's like, maybe you should keep my number.
It's like, what? I know. You're too calm about all this.
Yeah, very much. It turns into very like, this is kind of predatory.
Yeah.
Grooming is happening.
That's what I just never realized, like, to watching it, I'm like, there's
it's
a lot
the 80s. We didn't really know that was a thing.
No, but I think what it is though, but like later on though, even like if you're gonna talk about like Freaky Friday or whatever, they have this same kind of element with like the underrated, but it's so aware of itself.
Yeah,
like Jamie Lee Curtis being interested in the boyfriend, and they're like pointing out how creepy it is, and then she's grossed out that the older guy is hitting on her because she is a 17-year-old or whatever.
Well, let's not talk about that too much because we're doing that next week.
Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
Okay. But you know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
It's just so nonchalant. That
yeah, because
right.
at this time we're like it's kind of like it's in the 80s. That's kind of like that's funny. It's like the reality of it isn't. It's not as distasteful yet in a cultural sense, even though it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. This is the 80s. This is when like glam metal people were like singing about taking the virginity of like 16, 17-year-olds. Like this is the 80s, man.
This is how it goes, I guess.
But I do like his seat when she's like talking with him, and the other sweet moment where he says, "I have a million reasons to go back to be a kid again, but there's only one reason to stay this way." And she's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's you. Obviously, it's you." And I just kind of like, he's like, it's like, you definitely like make me want to stay here, but one over like a million, like I need to be a kid again type thing.
Yeah.
And even she kind of makes this like comment about like, you get it. Oh no, you don't get it yet. You'll get it. Because he's like, do you want to, maybe you can come back with me. Maybe you wish to be young. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So, and then, she drops him off into the neighborhood. Like he tries to get one last kiss in. And then she pulls it and kisses him on the forehead. And, sweet, you're 13. She's like, you're 13.
Nice try, bud.
You're 13. I had sex with a 13-year-old.
Well, I was laughing to him like this is like one of those like situations in a movie. It's like you can't. You're not going to be able to explain this to anyone.
No, right? She's going to be going to therapy for the rest. Well, then of her
even
life.
him, like, how is he going to? He shows up like so. Yeah, he's walking down the road, and they're like, she's watching him, and then suddenly she looks down, she looks back up, and he's transformed back into a kid again. And he's like wearing the suit and everything, so it's huge on him. But he like runs inside. It's like, Mom. It's like, how are you going to explain this? I don't get.
I mean. He's obviously going to get processed with the police. He's not going to have anybody to explain anything to. He's going to be like, I don't know. I just had this really weird dream where I was big for 4 to 6 weeks. Like,
yeah.
And so he's like, or he'll be like, don't worry about it. I'm here. I'm safe. I'm alive.
I guess so.
And then just for the rest of his life, his mom's going to be like, Josh, what happened? Like, just get like just drunken Christmas parties. Why didn't you ever what did they do to you?
Fuck, it's so terrible. You can't talk. All right, let's get into. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into rating.
I after our conversation, I think it's a wet mogwai. It's not a mogwai. It's not a gizmo. Like at first, I was thinking like personally, I would think it's more of a mogwai because I really do like this movie. I didn't realize how much I was going to really appreciate it again and just find new stuff and wonderful acting from Tom Hanks as well. But I think it's a wet mogwai,
which is like what
like a 7,
a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, like what? Well, it's like IMDb got it on the spot.
What was it on IMDb?
7.3.
I would give it a little bit lower, but it's just because that whole I find the abrupt romantic change. I mean
that's fair. I mean I guess like has it aged very well? Not 100%. But
it still has merit.
Yeah, it has a lot of strong merit. It's a very solid, good story. I think
Yeah.
Right. It's just like it's a product of its time.
Yeah, I'll just go with Metwog. Yeah, I'm not gonna give it like a Mogwai Season After Midnight.
Yeah,
I'll just go with
wet Mogwai. And it's such a family movie. I recommend this for everyone. Everybody watch it. If you don't watch it, we're not friends.
I'd also just watch it because for these if you're in my camp about it, just for these weird, you're like, that's so weird. It's really fun for that. Like, that's so uncomfortable.
Well, I think even like in Adventures in Babysitting had moments like this too. It's very 80s.
Yeah, that's true. That movie's also hella 80s.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, guys,
thanks for listening.
Next week, we're going to be doing the remake of Freaky Friday, the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis one.
You don't want to do the original?
No, I just feel like we're more connected to the 2007 or whatever year that one was. And like, it's going to have more recent, we can talk about the other one, Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to do the remake of Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Thank you, Jesus. Jamie Lee Curtis. I've been doing that a lot recently.
Just blanking on names. Yeah.
Well, hers. I always want to call her someone else. I'm taking her name and someone else.
Susan Sarandon?
No. It's like another Jamie Lee, like a 3-parter. But I'm like
Jamie Lynn Spears.
That's what it was because I was just watching
16 and Pregnant.
Steel Sweet Magnolias.
Yeah. Okay. She was not in 16 and Pregnant. That was actually kind of bad joke.
She was just 16 and pregnant.
She lost her Zoe 101. Was that it?
That was her
Nickelodeon show. Yeah.
I liked Zoe 101. Anyways, so thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. Please rate us if you get the chance. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. We have some fun stuff on there.
Yeah.
And this is Tommy.
This is Jay.
This is Tommy and Jacob's Mixtape.